We analyzed or used the concept learning region for studying the issue. And the concept learning region, it offers a reasonable framework for describing how institutions and people act or should act in the increasingly post-industrial economies of the Baltic Sea region countries. The learning region's concept was analyzed using 4 dimensions. The first dimension is the activities in favor of lifelong learning of the region's inhabitants. The second dimension denotes activities for empowering and networking the educational institutions of the region. The third dimension refers to ongoing investments to integrate the regional subsystems and institutions into a sustainable process of mutual learning and innovation. And the fourth dimension, the regional triple helix, is a constellation in which universities cooperate with industry and authorities. This fourth dimension of the learning region positions the universities not only as nodal points in the network of the Baltic Sea regional fabric, but also as potential co-creators of the region, so-called region builders. The lifelong learning, I will go a bit into it, is an important factor in the emergence of the knowledge society and implies a major change in knowledge production. It recognizes that other actors are involved with universities, which again forces universities to engage in a dialogue with the society that surrounds them. In this context, academic research continues to play an important role in co-creation of knowledge. The individual and collective market needs often require a quick response from higher education institutions, which ask for flexibility and innovation potential in the institutions. And this is why there is a need for structured partnerships in the area of lifelong learning in the Baltic Sea region, as well as at the more local levels. And so also higher education institutions need the support of other educational institutions to cooperate with them, but also with employers, trade unions, and other stakeholders. The main funding schemes for lifelong learning in the Nordic region, such as the Nord Plus Adult and Nord Plus Higher Education. The EU program Erasmus for All, starting this year, considerably increases the support for educational mobility, and in doing so creates possibilities for enhanced opportunities and internationalization. Yet, at the current stage, it would be an exaggeration to speak of the Baltic Sea region as a region with region-wide networks or partnerships. A clear strategy for the promotion of lifelong learning of the Baltic Sea region level is still missing, which, for instance, could be propagated and coordinated by the Council of Baltic Sea States, CBSs. The first step in this direction could be taken by admitting all Baltic Sea region countries to participate in Nord Plus. So, for instance, Poland, Germany, Russia are not partners in this now. I go on to the second point, the activities for empowering and networking educational institutions. Baltic Sea region educational capacities are quite advanced. This includes not only well-educated inhabitants, but also competent region builders who guarantee proper framing of the regionalization process. In recent years, one of the most important initiatives has been the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, which was already mentioned here earlier. The need to match the company's expectations for well-trained graduates and to prove almost immediate applicability of research results has been decisive for regional stakeholders and decision makers in framing and implementing the strategy. Clearly, this has been positive to some disciplines, such as natural science and technology, while social sciences and humanities have been disregarded. In the future, the bias of providing insufficient funding for less sexy and marketable research may worsen the potential for innovation in the Baltic Sea region economies. In other words, the competitive advantage could be based on an ability to integrate humanistic and artistic components into the service economies. But these components have not been explicitly present or sufficiently supported so far. Additional examples of funding instruments for cooperation are found with Russia, which include the Knowledge and Networking Program for Participation and the Northern Dimension Partnership. So there are some openings, but not enough to include the whole Baltic Sea region. We can also mention e-learning, which has been a part of higher education offer for several years, as programs that complement on-campus courses. A new trend has been introduced by massive online open courses, the MOOCs, which also were mentioned here earlier before the coffee, which open one more avenue for virtual mobility and a widened educational offer. However, networking the academic and research-based region into existence also requires increased real-life mobility. And the patterns of physical mobility in the region are still not optimally tuned. Graduate students and academic researchers often choose an institution on the basis of excellence in research, quite naturally, rather than geographical proximity. Mobility and joint higher education programs have shown both successes and disappointments. In several cases, funding schemes for student studies drive students' choices in a direction that works against enrollment in the Baltic Sea region. This is a challenge for mobility as well as for joint programs. Again, we can say that arrangements which focus on specific areas of complementary expertise or cross-border study programs, they seem to be easier to implement. A successful way to accomplish this has been developed by the Nordplus mobility grants for students, which are awarded for full-time studies and work placements in the Nordic and Baltic countries. Nordplus has been superior to Erasmus in the Baltic Sea region, but this does not anticipate cooperation on equal terms with Germany, Poland, or Russia. Although this means that Nordplus hardly represents a regional system at the moment, it may well be regarded as a future role model for developing a region-wide scope. In the meantime, a possible solution could be to develop the new EU program, Erasmus for All, to be at least partly geared towards the European regions. Not only the Baltic Sea region, we also have the Danube region and the Alp region, I think, and parts of the Mediterranean. So part of Erasmus, we think, could be geared towards these regions. Coming to the third dimension, the integrating the regional subsystems and into institutions into a sustainable process of mutual learning and innovation. It requires arriving at a consensus between understanding the region as a unified regional system and the multipolar cooperation patterns in the Baltic Sea region. Conventional views of the learning region concept refers to a hierarchical relationship among the region's actors, where ideas diffuse from the centers out to the peripheries. Since the Baltic Sea region does not possess a single center, its multidimensional character provides a challenge. We have one good example of meeting this challenge, and that is Baltic University program. Baltic University program, as you know, is a network based on sustainable development, and for more than 20 years we have worked offering a framework for research-based education within as well as beyond the Baltic Sea region borders. This network is an informally structured collaboration coordinated by the Secretariat at Uppsala University and national nodes to create a cross-border governance. We have in every country also BUP centers. This structure leaves room for many kinds of collaboration, although its main activities support the internationalization of higher education and capacity development in the area of sustainable development. This long-term cooperation with a geographically wide and numerically large membership has developed into a solid platform through which and multilateral projects are elevated, and with students' activities and competence development for teachers, just to mention a few. It's therefore not surprising that Baltic University program also is a flagship under EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, with the task to enhance the cooperation among higher education institutions in the Baltic Sea region. I can also mention that there are several thematic networks in the region. I can shortly just list them here. So Nova Bova for agriculture, we have Nordtech for technology, Scanbalt for biotechnology and bioeconomy. And for university administration, I know about two such networks. That's about NUAS and Baltic Sea Regional University Network. So the internationalization should consider the whole institution, research, education, as well as the administration of universities. Several of these organizations and networks have started as projects and are often still dependent on project funding for their activities. Funding is often a common dilemma during the transition from a pure project-funded organization towards a permanent entity. This change in the financing structure is crucial for the survival of this organization and calls for continued support both from the participating countries and from the higher education institutions. I will go to the fourth dimension here. The regional triple helix structures are understood as cooperation between academia, governments, and business. And one of the best manifestations we found of this structure is found in Öresund model. It brings together universities, industry stakeholders, and regional authorities, both in Denmark and in Sweden. The Öresund region is characterized by a concentration of research-intensive multinational companies, innovative enterprises, and leading higher education research institutions, specialized in life science and ICT. Large infrastructure projects contribute to the scientific potential and high-tech image of the region. Two large such scientific facilities for material science research have been built, the SMAX 4 and European Spallation Source, which you might have heard of. Their reach extends much further than the cross-border region. Looking into the future of a possible triple helix initiatives in the Baltic Sea region, we could see that green growth and innovation seem to have the greatest potential. However, a recent study conducted with the Nordic Council of Ministers showed that only a few research projects included participation from several Nordic countries. So still we look at partners further away. Other promising areas which we could work with are urban development and the Baltic Sea itself. As these themes are common to many of us and many countries, they will surely provide potential for cooperation in a region-wide and institutionally interwoven network of concerned universities, local and regional authorities, and companies. So I will list the findings here. It's the last 3 slides. There's a widespread consensus that education, research cooperation, practiced at a regional level will lead to increased prosperity of the region. But, secondly, the negotiation of interest and priorities between the nationally anchored institutions and the regional horizon of expectations still remain difficult issues. Thirdly, there's a small hint. A Baltic Sea Region community of scholars is thus progressing, but still at the formative stage. Mobility of students and researchers is not optimally tuned, and this is unlikely to develop without a strategically allocated financial basis for it. Fifth finding. The EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region provides a possible instrument to push forward the institutionalization of this a pan-regional funding scheme. The strategy itself does not include any funding. You know about the 3 no's: no new legislation, no new money, no new administration. The role of the Baltic University program is unique, offering a platform for cooperation for researchers, teachers, as well as students. And somehow the funding has succeeded during so many years now. Yeah, just to remind us where we are, here's the map of our region. We include the whole drainage area, not only the countries at the coastal line of the Baltic Sea. And this then implies that parts of Belarus, Ukraine, even Czech and Slovak republics, and Germany are included in our network, naturally. But as you can see from the dots, the cooperation reaches also beyond that. And talking about multi-level international governance, as you already have heard several times, we have a secretariat at Uppsala University, we have 14 centers in the region, many active universities, distributed responsibilities. We have in Poland a very effective conference organization. Hamburg is leading much of our project planning, project funding activities. And in Finland, we take care of the teachers' competence development activities. And we are on our way to widen the distribution of responsibilities. And the line beyond is cited from our statutes, which you also have in your folders, that Baltic University program supports the key role that universities play in a democratic, peaceful and sustainable regional development by developing university courses based on research and through participation in research projects in cooperation with authorities, municipalities and other partners. And I think this refers to much of what was also discussed in the study I just referred to here in my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.